Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Ms. Dubois finishing up some videos for pre-algebra goal 4. We've spent the last two videos getting ourselves used to equations and how useless the variables are because, oh my god, they're not interested in doing literally anything. And now we're finally going to give them something to think about. We're going to make those variables actually want to actively work in our favor because now we're going to start solving equations. And so let's get started. We want to start with, again, because we're easing you into this, we're going to start first with addition and subtraction. It says addition, but to remind you, subtraction is a little more than addition of negatives. So we want to get used to first the properties. So what do the properties actually mean? So a good little trick, and this is something I'll give my Algebra 1 kids and my Algebra 2 kids. Let's see here. If you use, there we go, a 1 or a 0, because this is addition, it's going to be 0. That is an identity. If you are will it have it here? I don't know if it does. I don't think it does here. I'll put it in just in case. If you get 1 or 0 as an answer, that is an inverse. I do not know off the top of my head whether that's in this particular topic or not. I know it is in the Algebra 1 topic, and you're moving into Algebra 1 very shortly. So, getting you used to that. If the number, actually, you know what? Because we learned the terms in the last one. If the terms move, that is going to be commutative. And if the parentheses move, that's going to be associative. And this is actually going to help you with two topics, associative. Because if you look back up here at the top, it says Introduction to Properties of Addition, Introduction to Properties of Multiplication. I wonder if there's carryover between those two topics. Funny that. Anyway, so over here, when I'm looking at this at a glance, you'll notice that we have parentheses on the back end over here. And then on the right side of the equation, we have parentheses on the front end. That means that the parentheses moved. What happens if the parentheses move? That's associative. So when I look at this box, I'm going to write associative. I'll write ASSOC for associative. And what's the blank box here? Well, what's the missing number? 6. Over here, we have 3 plus 7. 7 was in the back, and now suddenly 7 is in the front. That means the terms moved. What is it called when the terms moved? Commutative. Commutative. And therefore, this in number here is going to be 3. 3 plus what equals 3? Well, like I said, because this is additive identity first, so for this one, it's, how do I write this so that it's like actually legible? Let me think for a second. So if it's 0, that's going to be your additive measure. And if it's 1, it's going to be your multiplicative measure. And that also is true for your inverses as well. So this number is going to be 0, and what number uses 1 or 0? The identities. I'll just write ID for identity. Over here, 4 equals 4. That's pretty obviously an identity because the number that you add to 4 to get 4 is 0. Over here, we have parentheses in front. They moved to parentheses in back. So when I trace my way up here, I now know that that is associative. And therefore, this number is going to be 9. Then over here, let's see here. 7 plus 8 equals something plus 7. You notice the 7 was in the front, and now it's in the back. If the terms are moving, that is commutative. So therefore, this is an 8. And that's how the properties of addition work. Now that we're used to how we're filling in the numbers, let's actually go in and use it a little bit more distinctly. Now they're not giving you tip-offs for filling numbers. They just expect you to know parentheses in back, parentheses in front. This is associative. Numbers in one way, then written the other. They change places, so this is commutative. And then, I knew there was going to be an inverse for one of these topics. So if you'll notice, up here, I'm going to erase this for a second. We were using 0. It was something plus 0 equals that something. That is using. Now down here, this one right here, that's the cool one. It was 0 equals something plus usually a negative something. This means you're getting 0 as an answer. I don't usually get questions when I give this table out to kids, but if they do get a question, that's here. What's the difference between using and getting? Using means the 0 is in the middle of the work. It's in the thick of it, trying to do its job. Getting means 0 is the result, and that does not look like an equal sign. Getting means 0 is the result. So 0 is the result of this particular answer, and therefore it is an inverse. Inverse. Over here, we have 0 again that we're getting as a result, so therefore this is an inverse. Let's see here. Now here, by contrast, 0 is being used. It's right next to a number. It's not alone by itself on an equal sign. Therefore, this is an identity. Identity. Next, 7 and 3, 3 and 7. The numbers moved. Therefore, this is commutative, which I can't spell. There we go. All right. So that's all what it looks like for addition. Gee, I wonder what it will look like for multiplication. It's not going to be exactly the same thing, just with a different operation, is it? Is it? Yes, it is. Spoiler alert. All right. So introduction to properties of multiplication. Now here there is one extra term to keep in mind, and that is the multiplicative property of 0. Zero, Ms. Dubois, learn how to write. So something times 0 equals 0. There it is. Something that everybody already knows, and just because we're mathematicians and we love to name everything, we just slap a title on it and say that we're done. Huzzah, happy days. So over here, you can see it right off the bat. Something 7 times what gets me 0? 0. What format does that match? The multiplicative property of 0. Now that's the fancy math term for it. I remember in the drop down it looks a little bit shorthanded. I think it's just called property of 0, but that's ultimately what you're doing. So to shorthand that, because I did not give myself space like a silly person, multiplicative property of 0. There, we'll do it that way. Now, 6 times 7 is, of course, the same as 7 times 6. The numbers change like we did up here in this little table that you hopefully wrote down. So, since the numbers change, this is commutative. Commutative. Let's see here. We have parentheses. That tips me off immediately. We have, oh, so that should be a 6, Ms. Dubois. Duh. The parentheses are in back. Now they're in front. That is associative. Associative. So, what's that last number in the back? That's a 7. Now, what times 3 gets me 3? 1 times 3 gets me 3. That's a use because 1 is in the thick of it. So therefore, this is an identity. Identity. Here, I see parentheses. The parentheses were in back and now they're in front. So this is associative. So that means this is going to be a 4. What number times 0 gets me 0? 0. And what's the fancy new property that we were just talking about? This is the multiplicative property of 0. Times 1, we are using a 1, so therefore this is an identity, and the number here is going to be 6. We have 9 times 4 equals 4 times 9, and since the numbers changed position, this is commutative. Okay, and now I think that's all the main things, and now we have properties of real numbers. We finally get to dig into stuff. So, which one is this one? Well, we got 0 as an answer. And what operation is this? This is addition. So this is the additive inverse. Help if I knew my words, Ms. Dubois. This one, 9 times d, d times 9. The operation is multiplication, and this is the commutative property. And again, because there's a drop down, you would look for whatever matches these keywords that we're looking for. Times 0 equals 0. That's the multiplicative property of 0. Let's see here. 8 is in front, and then 8 is in back, so the numbers change places, and this is addition. So this is the commutative property of addition. Over here, let's see here. Now here's a new fancy new one. I forgot about this. I forgot about it because we talked about it all the bloody time, all the way back in video 1 when we were doing distributive over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Am I funny? Probably not. So what's happening here? The way to sort of visually, let me write it first. This is the distributive property, distributive property. If you're looking to shorthand it, it's when the parentheses disappear. I can't spell. Oh my God, Miss Dubois, you're embarrassing yourself. There. So over here, you have d plus 4, it's in parentheses, but you'll notice that completely disappears on the other side. And also, if you look at what happens, what's 7 times d? 7d. What's 7 times 4? Well, I don't know, but it's 7 times 4. That's your tip-off that this is going to be the distributive property. Okay? Parentheses in front, parentheses in back, so this is associative. And what operation is this? This is multiplication. Let's see here. We're getting 0 as an answer, so this is going to be an inverse. And what operation is this? This is the additive inverse. We have 1, we're using it. We're not getting it as an answer, we're using it. So this is an identity. And what's the operation? Multiplication. So this is a multiplicative identity. And that's how you figure out your properties of real numbers. I cannot emphasize enough that you get this little table of contents. You add the extra pieces that we knew for the individual topics, and this collection of topics becomes a breeze. Now that we can sort of see them on site, let's actually see what is going on. And this is how you sort of use language to describe what you're doing when you're solving an equation. So if you'll notice, we have a given. This is what they told us, and now we're going to manipulate it. So what happened? The parentheses were in back, and now they're in front. So we just did an associative property. Next, what did we do? We did everything inside the parentheses, the 2 and the 7. What that means then is those were like terms. Gee, I wonder what like terms are. It's not like we didn't spend several topics talking about it. What else did we do? Let's see here. The 9x wasn't back, and then we put it in front. So this is just a little bit of commutative. Commutative property isn't technically necessary here, but I can tell you as a professional math teacher, you always low-key want your variable in front of your expression because usually the variable has a little bit more weight when you're doing math, and especially some of the high-end math. Over here, let's take a look at what we did. We have parentheses in back, and suddenly we moved them to the front. I don't even need to think about it anymore. This is associative because the parentheses changed position. Then we did the 3 plus 8. We actually combined them together, and there's the key phrase. We combined like terms. And then what did we do? We put the 7 in back and moved it to the front, and much like before, that's commutative. I'm a little uncomfortable that it's the same order of things. I don't want you guys to think that it's always going to be like this. I almost wish I grabbed a third screen grab. Oh well. So that is everything to do with getting you comfortable with the manipulation. And now, at last, the true guts of Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, we're going to start solving two-step equations, and that will be in the next video. Thank you kindly for watching. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one. End transmission.